Mike, go ahead and introduce yourself as well as Luxe Living Homes, your company.
I'm Mike Hubbell with Luxe Living Homes. My background is started as a vendor or contractor early on in the 90s, mid 90s, and then quickly jumped in the GC world and did hundreds, ultimately being over 1,000 units, but did a bunch of fix and flips for the investment side. And then, during the crash, jumped into the part in which we're buying them ourselves as investors, right? And then got into the home building world. And then fast forward to 2020 and jumped into Luxe Living Homes.
Great,
And Luxe
amazing.
Living Homes is all about decentralized energy and net zero.
Yeah, I love the philosophy behind the company as well. But Mike, I want to start where your LinkedIn starts because you put it out there in all caps, essentially without apology or anything like that. So 5 years ago, you lost everything and were $28 million in debt. And most people in that position will go quiet, but you went public to kind of explain your story. So why did you decide to be completely transparent about what happened? And then what do you want people to understand about that period that most of them do not?
Well, I think, most people people think a lot of different things. I always want to put things out there because I believe it's important to be realistic about where you came from. And when you're realistic about that, it's like in the movie 8 Mile, and he gets up there, right? Eminem gets up there and he says all the bad things about himself first, right? And then when the guy comes in to come back at him, he really had nothing to say. And so when you can put out there the bad stuff in your life, then it's really your trajectory moving forward. There's nothing that's going to stop you from moving forward in what you're doing. And so I think it's better to always just kind of put things out there. Also, everybody fails in this business. When I say everybody, I don't know anybody that's been highly successful that hasn't failed.
Mm-hmm.
And real success never starts until you do fail. And it's part of the prerequisite of life is that you have to learn to fail and be okay with that. And the more that I can talk about it, the more I can get it out there, then I can say, hey, there is a better way. And ultimately, it wasn't a failure of anything other than the failure of systems in the way in which we did things. And so I set out to say, hey, I failed. This is how bad I failed. But we've got something better. We've got a better system that works, a system that works and allows you to be a steward to people and not necessarily just bringing people's investor dollars in and things like that.
Yeah, no, and I think it's very important to be transparent with those types of things, right? You're kind of building off of the failure and learning from that. Again, something that maybe was out of your control, but at least when you go public as well, it's like other people can also learn from, lessons from that as well and just know, okay, I just have to persevere through things. We can get through it. Everybody faces challenges. That's just a reality that, trying to build a business and scale it. So appreciate you sharing that. So after the collapse, you sat down and you wrote out basically an entirely new investment philosophy, what you call the rule of 75%. So basically it's a set of principles built to protect investors from the exact forces that almost destroyed you, right? So walk me through that rule and what it protects against that most developers never think about until it's too late.
And the rule of 75 is really understanding where failure happens. And the basic rule of 75 was not even my idea. It was an idea I noticed and an observation I noticed, which is all good lenders, when they lend money, lend based on the rule of 75. So if a project is worth $100 million, they're not giving you more than $75 million. And so if they're not giving you more than $75 million, that tells me that I shouldn't be doing it as well. And I can't really be a good steward of people's money knowing that at any given time, the marketplace can go down and it has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with the operator. We don't control interest rates, by the way, just anomaly. Like we don't control purchasing power of the US dollar. But we are highly affected in this business because hard assets are one of the ways in which people mitigate around inflationary and deflationary pressure. And so we don't do those things. But if we don't adhere to some principle that allows us to be great steward of people's money, then I think we're kind of fooling ourselves in the way that we approach it. And so adding these rules, and that was just one of them, made a huge difference in the way that we operated our business.
Amazing. Yeah, no, great foundations to kind of build upon. Your mission statement says you want to do real estate what basically Tesla did to cars, right? So, and that's not a casual comparison. So Tesla did not just build electrical vehicles; they made clean energy, aspirational, beautiful, and status worthy now in a way that changed the entire industry. So, what's the equivalent of that for net zero real estate, and what does it look like when Lux gets it right?
Listen, it's even bigger than that. I think it's a bigger vision than even what Tesla did. It Our goal is to integrate energy, integrate technology,
Mm-hmm.
integrate housing all into one. And but in doing so, and to be honest with you, we're going to integrate transportation in it because the transportation will talk to the house and the house will talk to the transportation. So you don't have to have a source outside of your house. I equate it much to it's a different way of thinking because when I look at this and I equate it, I say the house is the center of where everything that we do. A lot of people now work out of their house, right?
Right, right.
If you go outside of your house, but most of us will spend 12 to 15 hours in the house. And so our idea was to centralize everything around that, much like the internet did. The internet, before the internet, communication happened through the phone system, which was more of a centralized system, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so everything went back to the switchboard and then back to the house. The moment the internet comes along, my neighbor's houses and their router benefits me. And so the more and more houses that are hooked up on that system, it works. Well, it's the same thing with decentralized energy. When you have decentralized energy, my house becomes a spot where we produce energy. My neighbor's house becomes a spot. And then we also store the energy as well. And then when we don't need it, when there's excess, which there's always excess because of the time of day,
Mm-hmm.
then we can send that out into the grid or over to our neighbor's property, for example, because we're all attached to the grid. And it creates a system in the way in which we think of it, much like a human owns their own energy. If you own your own energy, it's a lot different than you're constantly being fed by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to get energy back into the place in which it's getting consumed. The house consumes the energy, the house stores the energy, and the house produces the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else works off of that.
I think it's just amazing too to touch upon that. I mean, there really hasn't been any type of revolutionary type, I guess era or wave within real estate. I don't know the last time, right? Something big has happened. So I feel like you're kind of the pioneer in all of this and kind of implementing technology, making it like a new idea around that. I think it's amazing. It's really amazing. And you brought up a good point too, in terms of how much time people really spend at home now. I didn't really realize that until you mentioned that. A lot of people work from home. Obviously, we sleep here. So you're spending a lot of time at home, and why not revolutionize that central area that a lot of people spend a lot of time at day to day?
Well, not only do we look at it from a energy standpoint, but we also look at it from a wellness standpoint.
Mm.
So you spend all this time in the house, and the houses can make you sick. Most people don't really recognize that, but the off-gassing from the house, from the glues, because so many of new homes are made of a bunch of glue, right? If you just look at it. And so the off-gassing, the formaldehyde that comes off it, which, by the way, this is how the wellness for me started, which was I got sick in my own brand new house.
Oh, really?
And when I say sick, I would lose the skin off the back of my ears or off my eyelids. I would get welts in different places. And it was all caused from, I'm highly allergic to formaldehyde, which is an off gas from new construction.
Mm-hmm.
So you're sitting inside your house. So we said, okay, how do we marry the wellness and the net zero? And wellness isn't anything new, but it's very simple. The air quality that you live in, the water quality that you live in, and the lighting quality and what's going on with the lighting. And so we design houses around not only energy, but also the wellness side, which is to say, how can we make the house be something? Because we do spend 15 hours in it a day. How can we make it a place of health?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing greater thing than health. Health is the new wealth, right? Because people used to only live 40 years and they would run as hard as they could. But we're not living 40 years anymore. We're living 85 years. And that changes the dynamic. Saltwater pools versus regular salt, red light saunas, things like that. I mean, you can do hydrogen generators under the sea to infuse hydrogen into the water. water purification because the purification done. Can you imagine living in Flint,
Oh my God.
Michigan, and dealing with that mess, dealing with the lead, and
Hmm.
not having the ability to, and knowing that every time you drink the water, you're sickening your family. I mean,
Right.
these are like simple things. And so if we design the houses around this and say, okay, the centralized part is maybe not the way it works anymore. Maybe we get back to the point where energy, the wellness, the health part is all sitting right where we live.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. I want to actually deep dive now into kind of how you acquire these properties. So basically, you acquire these distressed properties and transform them into net zero energy communities using things like rooftop solar, wind turbines, battery technology. So walk me through what that process actually looks like. Basically, from acquisition, very beginning to completion. So when you are standing in a distressed building for the first time, what are you seeing that most buyers just completely walk past or maybe even overlook?
Well, the first part of it, I would say, and there's a lot of people that have made money in distressed assets, but I always kind of flip it on its head and it's about distressed people.
Mm.
There is no distressed asset out there without distressed people. And people get in distress for a reason. The rule of 75 is about distressed people because distressed people got into a deal, didn't have the reserves that they needed, they borrowed too much money from the lender. And that system made them sick and it made them distressed. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
now now the distressed people, which turns into to a distressed asset. And a distressed asset can be level, just regular old land. A distressed asset could be a building, it could be a house, it can be a multifamily project that's a quarter of the way done.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a casino in Las Vegas that sat for 15 years because, people ran out of money or they improperly installed concrete on it, whatever it is. So when we look for distressed assets, I will tell you this one thing: distressed people come looking for us. And I don't know how that happens. I just know that it's known that we work with distressed people and distressed people bring us their distressed assets. Almost every asset that I currently own and every asset we own in the future came from a distressed person. And that changes the dynamic of what was going on. And our end goal is there to help them. Our also long-term goal is to be a steward to our investors. And so when you're dealing with distressed assets and distressed people, the quickest way to ensure that the profits are maximized is to deal with these types of projects because that makes the most sense. My first project that I did under the Luxe brand was a distressed lender. The lender was in full distress. They lent money in a place they didn't have boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. The previous builder went belly up, and that project turned into a win for everybody. It turned into a win for the city. It turned into a win for the vendors that were involved. It turned into a win for us. And it all came down to going in there and solving people's problems. And in solving people's problems, you are capable of overcoming any of the distress around it.
I like that a lot. So basically, the distress originates with the person, typically, is what you've seen.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never not seen it doesn't. Somebody's going through a divorce. Somebody's going through a health problem. One of our projects, somebody had cancer. And people don't realize the personal stress and how it puts personal stress on it. Just look at something that is in distress. There's a person attached to it. And so if you go in there and help the distressed person, the distress asset just comes to you.
That's an amazing perspective. I've never thought of that. That's very eye opening. Real quick, you had mentioned investors. So your investment structure is a 506c fund open to accredited investors, and when someone invests in the company, they receive essentially a stake in the company, the platform, and the portfolio simultaneously. So that's a different proposition than just buying into a single deal. Why did you design it that way, and what does it mean for the investor in terms of upside and alignment?
Well, alignment in investing and stewardship is everything to me. I am a if you understand stewardship, that you're being entrusted by other people. Like we're being entrusted with people's money. It's their most protected asset. And when people give you the money, they're actually giving you the most trust, right? And I came to this conclusion because I'd done it wrong. I'd done everything around everything else, like returns were more important. Um, just the perception around it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized that I'm really here to be a steward of people's money, and that when they entrust that to me, that we're going to make decisions together. And when I originally founded Luxe Living, I had a slightly different structure. I had a structure that is more common today, which is you see partnerships around an individual asset. And what I quickly realized is as the general partner and as the contractor, like make no mistake, I am the contractor on these sites. I was
Mm-hmm.
on a site yesterday shoveling dirt. I mean, that's just, which by the way is a stewardship thing, which is I'm there to protect my investors' investment. I'm there to ensure my lenders get their return, the money that they need. I'm there to make sure my vendors get paid on time. And if that means that I have to show up because I've got steel arriving in 2 days and clean the project and shovel some dirt, then I'm going to shovel some dirt because I'm ultimately a steward of other people's things. And you have to I have to treat it like that. The moment I treat this like let's maximize returns, and that's what the system wants you to do. It wants you to maximize returns.
Mm-hmm.
You end up chasing something that will fail eventually. But this won't fail. And there will be times in looking at it this way, we will end up maximizing the returns of our investors' money. You always have to be in alignment with people. And when you realize that you're not, you have a responsibility to make a change.
It's a great point. I bet the investors appreciate that too, knowing that you will go to that level to ensure that you're protecting their investment. I'm sure there are a lot of other investments that don't ensure that. So I'm sure the investors really appreciate that level that you sort of portray or show.
Well, some of it takes an education too. Like it takes things not going right. By the way, I've been on very few projects where everything goes right. It either takes more time. The multifamily market has been destroyed in the last 3 years, and I don't care where you're at, Phoenix, Texas, Florida, they've seen depreciation on these assets. And you saw assets that were people paid too much money because they were in distress because they were dealing with the inflationary and pressure and all these things that happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds good, right? It sounds good when you hear it, what I'm doing. But at first, it takes people back a little bit. But I assure you, the most important thing is that when you're a steward for other people, you have a responsibility to protect themselves. One of the things that made me change my system, I'm not going to, and this is around stewardship and around investors, is when I realized that the last person to ever get paid on the job is a worker, is a person who picks up a shovel. And that's not right. If we have a system that pays the vendors last, the people that do the actual work, then we have a system that is broken. If the system inherently pays investors, if it pays lenders before it pays vendors and people that do the real work on the project, then you have a system that is broken. And that's a system that I don't want to be a part of. Because inherently, I don't want to be a part of people putting their hard-earned work, doing all the work on it, and being the last to pay. But most companies run that way. They pay people last. And it makes sense, right? Because capital, he who has the capital has the rules, makes the rules. Lenders have a requirement that you pay them every single month. And if you don't pay them every single month, then they'll slow your draws down, or they'll not give you your draws at all. They'll foreclose on you. There's all these things around it. And so I just said, I can't do that, be a part of that system.
That's an amazing philosophy, honestly, and I think that speaks volume. And to kind of further expand or kind of ask on the investor model that you follow, you've built in a digital treasury and crypto integration as an inflation hedge. Most real estate operators are not doing this. So where did that idea come from, and what does it actually do for the fund in practical terms?
In practical terms, I sat there and I looked at, I am a firm believer. I mean, I'm an avid reader. And to give you the background so you understand, I've been reading economics books since I took an econ class in 1992. And I've always been fascinated by business and economics. And I've read every book. And even though I didn't finish college, I read every book around economics that you could think of in the 20th century, and down to a book called The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've read every delusions and all the, there's another one. But anyways, I've read every single one. And one thing that is very clear to me, I've always been incensed by the fact that as a builder, as a developer, we don't have to do anything wrong, and we're still wrong. When they raise interest rates 5 basis points in less than a year and a half, they just destroyed every single builder developer out there, especially ones just getting started. Can you imagine being in your 20s and just getting started? No. And you think you're doing a badass job? Excuse my French. You think you're doing a good job, and they jack up interest rates by 5 basis points, and you got loans that are being called right now because that's how the commercial loans work on a multifamily building, and they're down 15%, and you did nothing wrong, but everybody's going to say you did everything wrong. Like, you should have done this, and you should have done this. They followed the rules. Or look what happened in 2007, 2008. You did everything right. You put down 20%. You saved up your money. You put 20% down. I remember my wife and I did a refinance of our house right before the 2008 debacle. And it was actually late 2007. We refinanced our house because our house got appraised at like 350 or whatever. Mm-hmm. We refinanced it because we needed to, because the business was just shot, because I wasn't getting paid. There was all kinds of things. I even think my wife at that time had quit working because we had 2 new boys in the house and plus a daughter, and we did nothing wrong. Like, we didn't do anything wrong. And here they screwed up. Mm-hmm. They were giving loans to people that should have never gotten loans. They had hyperinflated the system. And then the Federal Reserve does what it does. It comes in and bailed everybody out. And the government, technically the government bailed. And you know what? I'm not saying it didn't work. I'm just saying nobody really did anything wrong, but everybody was wrong. And that makes me realize about how we design our systems. And so I start looking at systems like that, to get back to the treasury thing. And we can do nothing wrong, and we're still wrong. And so how can I mitigate that risk? And one of the things that I came up with, which I had learned from just a basic a brokerage from a group like Morgan Stanley. Mm-hmm. There are products out there that you can, through your investment account, you can give all of your deposits. So let's say that I'm building $1 million in projects every month, right? So that's $12 million. I can take that $12 million that I'm collecting on the loans, and I can put it into an investment account. The investment account will generate revenue, because they're getting like 12% for you. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, you're borrowing your own money for your operations. And so I'm borrowing like $10 million, but I got $12 million because my deposits have just kicked up. Well, that's the same principle that I'm using with things like you can do with like crypto, mm-hmm. which is you put in all your deposits or a portion of your deposits into a Bitcoin or any of those other things. And then you can turn around and borrow 50% against that. And on my money, when Bitcoin goes up X amount of percent, you make all that upside, right, as a hedge.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then you're paying the 5% that you're borrowing against your own money.
I see.
And it really is a difference of the two.
Mm-hmm.
I can, you can effectively, and by the way, I didn't do this and I didn't do it in from a dangerous standpoint. There are ways to protect your hedge. And the way you protect your hedge is you put stop losses in. You're automatically stopped in. I did it at a very conservative level. And so to make it simple, in a 3-year test period, we saw in our test, just our test, real world test, with the market going up, down, sideways, everything. We saw that we were able to take like a couple $1 million and turn it into $15 million. And that's a big deal.
Mm.
And that's a big deal against inflation.
Yep.
That's a big deal. It protects you against that. And if you pay attention to what you're doing, and I'm not giving anybody investment advice. It's just in our test and what we saw, it is possible to do this with almost anything. You can do it with stock accounts. You can do it with things like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. There's really good ways to do it. And there's 2 or 3 cryptocurrencies. Just look them up. I don't need to tell them which one they are, but they've done very well, and they're they're fairly stable coins, regardless of whether I firmly believe in them one way or the other. I don't have a dog in the fight other than I want to protect myself against inflation. I want to protect myself against a 5 basis points upside for whatever reason they decide. I want to protect myself when they decide to print another $10 trillion because, pandemic or what, all those things. Those are all things that go through my mind. But it originally started with, I thought, I have been burned. I remember in 2015, the market was going up. I was selling all my homes for 10% multiples every time I put a product out there. But I was still just I was still doing okay. I wasn't doing great. And I wasn't doing great is because the cost that I was paying the subcontractors and the lumber and the steel was going up as fast as what I was paying the vendors. And so it was all relative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember dealing in the start of the pandemic where lumber doubled in price. I was building a home that we had a $38,000 budget for the lumber, and it went up to $92,000.
Wow.
I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And then the houses sold, and they sold for a little bit more, but they weren't selling for more than the speed in which that inflationary price goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything that I'm doing, everything I do is about being a steward of people's money, or being a steward of their resources, a vendor's resource. If I don't do these things, then how can I honestly say that I'm trying to protect people's money? Or how do I honestly say I'm trying to protect the vendor from not getting paid? Because when you go out of business, that's what happens. Because the only person that wins in this when you go out of business is the lender.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Real quick, I want to highlight the Viewpoint Terrace, which is your flagship. So basically for the listeners and everything, it's a 198 unit Class A community described as one of the first large scale clean energy subdivisions of its kind. So what was the vision behind that project, and what does it prove about the net zero model at scale that a smaller project maybe couldn't?
Well, actually, I think on a smaller project, you can still do it on a smaller project. I'm doing it on a single family home in Camas, Washington right now. We got 2 of them. Mm-hmm. I'm doing it on a threeplex in Vancouver, Washington, over by the mall. We got full on solar. It's in a lower end neighborhood. It's being turned into I don't know if you're familiar with pad split, We're doing 3 pad splits and 2 um, Airbnbs and then 1 long-term rental, all in the same building.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 3 units that we turned into 6 rentable units without changing the zoning, living within the zoning rules, all those things. What a big project though that determines is we get to bring all of the things that we want to the forefront that we've liked to see in the housing industry. Solar farm. It'll have a solar farm on the parking garages. So that solar farm is part of the community. We can sell that back into the grid,
Mm-hmm.
or we could attach it to every one of the houses and help power the houses. It'll also have its own battery pack. So you have the battery packs are a little bit bigger. They're size of a small rail car,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll be there. You'll have stored power there, and that which is kind of cool, right? And we're doing it in such a way. All of the communities that we've been designing, we do it in such a way that it's not like you're just seeing it. We make it part of the landscaping, or you put it on the roof so you don't really see them. It's kind of the same thing, because what do we effectively? It's a couple hundred units, but it's 66 individual units, and then each unit will have multiple rental units within it. So it's a mixture of kind of like a room rental and long-term rental all in the same one. Also, we're doing short-term rentals in there and things like that. So it's got everything and anything that you can think of, full-on solar on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Every unit, all 66 units will have 80,000 kilowatts in battery packs that will store the power, the solar to come down. We are developing, I can't say that we have everything on it, but we're developing little generators that will allow us to take rainwater in the Northwest. You have rainwater.
Mm-hmm.
Rainwater comes down the spigot. It turns a little turbine, and maybe we can help charge the battery a little bit. It's just another, just kind of little cool thing. You know what? Listen, Tesla did a really good job of this. And once Tesla did it, it seems like everybody did it. And there's been other manufacturers. I think BMW, one of the first guys where they took the brakes on the car, that when you slowed down your car, it would help charge the battery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same premise behind a spindle in a gutter system, right? And the gutter system represents a dam. So a dam, you dam up water. In a gutter system, you can do the same thing. You dam up the water and then you release the water. When you release the water, it goes down the chute. It turns a little spindle, which turns a big turbine, which produces power for the BPA. Very simple thing to understand, but you can do that in your houses too as well. Is it minimal? It is minimal. Is it a cool feature? Yes. Every little bit helps. Same time, we will do the same thing with wind turbines. We try to develop properties that get some type of wind. In the gorge in Washington and Oregon, which is the Columbia River, and even some respects on the Willamette River, you will get the winds that come through there. And in those areas, when you develop luxury properties in there,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually utilize wind turbines. We don't do wind turbines. We don't like the big, huge things, but we do like wind turbines on the top of the houses. We think that's a cool feature.
Yeah.
Those will help turn the battery. Is it everything and anything? No, that's not the point. The point is every little bit helps. And between that and the building envelopes on the houses, these will all be high efficiency R30 walls. They'll all have, R50 to R100, which is, the roofs,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of insulation in the roofs. Then all the windows, instead of being like an R3, these are all terminologies on the building side. We're getting into like an R7 window, twice as efficient. You have to jump into the triple pane windows. And we're not, we're buying from all over the world. So we're looking for vendors to source these. But you just got to remember, we're doing everything on scale. So you're not doing one-off solar that I bought from Solar City or whoever's selling solar these days. We're going directly to the source, the best manufacturers, the best battery manufacturers. There's a company called CATL, which is a large manufacturer of batteries out of China. I mean, they have great technology. Even guys like Tesla license CATL's technology in their battery packs. or Ford Motor is doing it, BMW is doing it, Mercedes is doing it. All of these guys are using the battery packs or the design of these battery packs from a company like this. And we'll have that technology on it. It's likely by that time we will have an operating system within the house that will control technology, energy, and wellness all in the same one. And that's in our future. We don't have that yet, but we do foresee it. Just look at a glorified iPad sitting on the wall. You'll be able to walk by, see how much power or energy you have left, much like a gas tank. You'll be able to see the water quality if the hydrogen generator is working underneath the sink. I mean, these are just like little things, and they sound expensive, but they're not. Hydrogen generators are not that expensive for underneath the sink. You can get them for $600 to $800. It will do all the water that comes out through that sink. It's infused with hydrogen. We have whole house water purification. We want to remove all contaminants, any chlorine, anything they add to on the level to clean it at the hub or whatever they want to call it, at the water purification systems. We just want to add all those things. That's really just me because I'm allergic to stupid stuff. The smell of chlorine makes me gag really bad. It also makes me feel sick. Just, I don't know why, but a lot of chemicals do that. I sneeze heavily around Roundup. I mean, these are just the things that happen to me in chemicals are just not good. Mm-hmm. And so I found that if I can get rid of those things, and I'm not the only one, I can't be the only one. We live in a world that's full of contaminants, and I know, I understand why we do them, but ultimately, if I can remove them and make the house well and make it an energy efficient and around all this, then I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think everybody would be on board with that thought as well. And I think a lot of things you're describing are really amazing, right? But they're also very innovative. And I think you're inadvertently kind of driving innovative thoughts and ideas, at least in real estate, with implementing all of these amazing things, especially with like energy delivery and everything. Yeah, I think it's kind of hoping at least it's driving more of an innovative and advanced, conversation or ideas for real estate. Because I think, as I mentioned before earlier on, like I think real estate, it's kind of its time now to kind of being, hopefully it's being pushed by technology soon. I think it's kind of time now to update, essentially. I think you're kind of the pioneer with that. So it's amazing to hear about these little things that are being implemented in these units.
I think it's difficult for people. I think it's difficult for builders and developers to do these things when they think that there's no dollar value to it. And our studies show something completely opposite. I'm not saying that an energy efficient home, people can get behind that, but I know they'll get behind walking into their house and seeing that the batteries that are out there on the wall are charged 80% and that they have enough power for the rest of the day. I know they'll pay extra money for that. I know they'll pay extra money for a carbon filter that filters out all chemicals out of the air so that they're no formaldehyde, any of those kind of things are there. I know they'll pay more for that. I know they'll pay for a hydrogen generator underneath their sink. These are all things that are readily. I know they'll pay for a red light sauna. They'll pay for a saltwater pool too as well. And so all of these different things, people will pay for it. But I think is it everybody? Can you do it on a mass scale? Can D.R. Horton go and do this? I don't think so. And I don't think D.R. Horton ever will. Because they don't see it. But you know what? If I based my thought and my process around whether the big guys like D.R. Horton would do it, or Pulte, or Lennar, if I based everything around them, then to me, I look at them and I think they're kind of like the car companies, right? Like Ford Motor Co. How long did it take them for them to finally adopt some electric cars?
Yeah.
And when they did, it was too late.
Yeah, right. So I want to get in a little bit to the technology and the use within your business operation. So you're running a vertically integrated operation as, developer, builder, and asset manager across multiple markets simultaneously. How are you using technology right now to manage investor communications or other things like project reporting and deal flow at that level of complexity without, a massive back office or kind of setup with employees, or with a lot of employees at least?
Listen, we deal with technology on every scale. And anytime I can implement technology into our business, we do, whether that's how we're dealing with investors. And this has been a grind. This has been a grind to raise the money. It's been a grind to, just find the right partners and find the right process. And I'm glad it's happened the way it has, because it's made us refine exactly what we want. But we will and will continue to implement technology for communication. When you look at things like software that runs the business, it's all technology related. Guys in the field with iPads, we don't need necessarily plan sets anymore. We just use an iPad. You look at it, you look it up. It's pretty standard practice. Those are simple things. The way we do our marketing is all technology driven.
Mhm.
A lot of it's automated. When I'm reaching out to investors, when I'm doing those kind of things, we utilize technology for accounting purposes. I mean, that's readily available. When we're raising debt or raising equity, we definitely do. It's all around technology. So I'm not sure what we don't do that's not technology. I mean, everything we're doing is about monitoring and looking at how we can better improve things, and technology allows you to do that. Much like when you look at a Tesla vehicle, they didn't do anything special. By the way, Tesla was not the founder of the electric car. So they took a bunch of systems, they made it really cool, and you know what they did? They created a roadster. And that roadster just kicked those aspirated cars' butts. And which I know drove them crazy, and it still drives them crazy that, most, the higher end Teslas can beat almost all the gas aspirated cars, hands down,
Mm.
because they get there faster in the way it works.
Right. And they're very quick. They're very fast. So AI is starting to reshape real estate development in ways that go well beyond just comps and listings. It can include things like predictive deal sourcing, construction cost modeling. So you're building net zero communities and managing an investor fund at the same time. Where do you think AI is about to make the biggest real operational difference for a developer and a fund manager like yourself?
Listen, here's where I see AI is probably on the legal side. I mean, I can't tell you, if I describe a problem that I'm having, a legal problem,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking for legal advice. I'm not saying that. It will give me the background of every court case that I need, that has happened in my state or another state.
Right.
And that to me is just the access to information through AI is just amazing. When I was designing, and when I say I mean, I designed this platform for net zero. I'm not saying I own that. It's a Department of Energy thing, and I'm not saying that. But the way in which we did it, I utilized AI to do all those, because I was looking for certain information and I was looking for certain things. And the use of AI allowed me to do that. All the way down to my marketing these days. I can say, I want a marketing piece that I can send out to my investors, send out to prospective debt holders, send it out for the community. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a 4,000 net zero futuristic house, and I can explain it to you in less than a sentence, and it will build me that property. AI does that all for us. And I don't have to call up somebody that, I'm not paying $500 for it. I'm paying like 2 minutes of my work for it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so the AI stuff allows me, like just personally as a CEO, to be really efficient in what I'm doing. I get a lot of great advice. I take that advice, I send it out to all the people that I'm dealing with, and it just works. And listen, that happens on everything. Land acquisition. We were looking at entering into the North Phoenix, Scottsdale, kind of that Paradise Valley,
Mm-hmm.
looking for parcels that we could buy to put housing and multifamily and single family houses. And I did an analysis of the market, how much the current cost structure was, how much they'd sell for, how much I know in cost I have to add for the net zero stuff and for the for the modernized looking product. And in less than 15 minutes, I knew where I wanted to be. I then picked up the phone because I was going to visit my daughter. I picked up the phone. Oh, and on top of that, I did the background of every parcel that was within a 5 mile radius that I could build my product onto. That was the other thing.
Wow.
So it gave me the zoning. I got down to the zoning. I could do this zoning, and on that zoning, I could build 12 units. And this is I had all that information at my fingertips. I then picked up the phone call, called the agent that I know that's in the area down there. And I said, listen, I'm going to be there in 2.5 hours. And I want to meet you first thing tomorrow morning. And I want to view the properties. By the time I landed, he had located the 3 properties, right? And that next morning, I went and saw 3 properties, 2 of which fit into our program.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
And I did it. It all started with AI. That's all. It all worked there. I started all that. And so I know that I can do that in every single, when I was looking up the first 12 markets that we wanted to go into, which was, we got Washington, Oregon, we have Arizona, we have Texas, we have Nevada, right? We have Utah, we have Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. And so when I was looking at all those markets, I quickly found the zip codes that my product would work perfect for. And not only the zip code, but the parcel types. And that was all done with AI. I didn't know about those markets. I got the price per square foot that I was looking for. I got the build cost per square foot. And if you look at my system, everything is designed around price per square foot. I have a system that was like before AI in its time, that you can sit down, you can put in all the information in. You put in like 10 different details that you want, and it'll spit out numbers for you on where you can buy and what you can buy. It's a really cool thing. And I did that before, AI was even doing. So I will say I have an advantage because I know what I'm looking for and what I'm asking. Because I design manual systems that do the same thing. I've had a manual system for the Northwest that I could basically build in any neighborhood I wanted to. And I just needed to know 3 factors. One was, what's the build cost in the area to build this, right? 2 is, I needed to know how much the average parcel was going for. And then 3 is, I needed to know price per square foot. Mm. And if I found those 3 things, which you can quickly do now in less than 5 minutes, I can put in a zip code, look in the places like Zillow or Redfin or any of the commercial sites, and you can quickly know whether a parcel works for you in seconds.
How long would that have typically taken without the help of AI? If you could project, it would be days, weeks. I mean, I would imagine it used to be probably a pretty lengthy kind of project, right, to kind of get through.
In the 2000s, I had investors who wanted me to go and build for them in Seattle, right? And so I'd go down. I went to Seattle, tried to find, looked for the vendors. We ultimately did a house there. When I was there, I was like, hey, this might be one of our next markets we want to go to. And I spent a month's worth of man hours of one of my own employees, and then about another month. It took me 2 months to get all that information that I needed, that I can literally do in 10 minutes.
Wow. And then how many other people would you typically need in order to get that information? Whereas now, right, it's just you yourself can, yeah.
If you're talking two people and you're paying them, and it took me, a full-time work is 40 hours a week. So, and it took 320 hours versus 15 minutes.
Right.
I mean, it's
I know it's been around for a few years now, but I feel like this is just the beginning as well, right? In terms of capability, what it can do for businesses, all of that. So kind of exciting to see where it heads. But that's a great example of how much it can really save you on time in terms of businesses and operations too. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah,
But
there's so many good services around the AI that will also help you get a lot of the same information.
right.
It's going so quickly.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. So I know you recently moved, or part of the company moved from Portland to Scottsdale in 2025. You hosted Raise Fest for over 1,000 attendees and ran 3 Capital Collective live events. So it sounds like you're building towards something much larger than just a regional development company. But what is the full vision for Luxe Living Homes, and what does this look like in 5 years if everything goes right?
If everything goes right, we're talking an IPO in for 4 years roughly. I think it's going to take 4 years to hit that. We got to get over some hurdles. You got to go and do audits. We got audits, and then we'll have to start doing audits by the end of the year. That's one of the requirements. Our ultimate goal in 5 years would be 30 markets and maybe 4 other countries. There's some other countries we're already talking to people in other countries, and they love what we're doing. And I meet a lot of people on LinkedIn because I'm active in it, and so because I'm active there, then people are constantly reaching out to me, and then you tell them what we're doing, and the next thing you know, they're like, well, you know what, this person I know, they're a developer. What about you coming over here and talking to us about it and maybe expanding, doing this or doing some type of licensing agreement? So I think that is our goal, is to take decentralized energy and stewardship to the world, because I think that's really important. It's really important that we protect other people, that we provide people with an excellent product to invest into that they can feel good about, that the company puts people first. And I truly do believe in putting people first. And that's really, my friend, that's because I've been on both sides of it. I've been on the other side. I've been the investor and lost money. I know what it's like. I've been the developer and lost money. I know what it's like. I've been the guy that was sweeping the floors and had the company go out of business. I didn't get paid at all. Like, I've been there. I know what that's like. And so I believe we have a responsibility to help others. I'm not saying do it for others. I'm just saying help others. And I'm always looking for like-minded individuals that want to do that as well.
It's amazing. Yeah, an amazing goal as well. What is one last kind of piece of advice you could give the audience? So a lot of the audience are small to medium-sized businesses that are scaling at the moment. And based on your experience, your challenges, your pain points, and your successes, what's a piece of advice you'd like to leave them with?
Slow down. When haste creates waste, and you get in this thing of moving fast and going so fast that when you don't notice the little things that are destroying your business. And you get yourself into partnerships that you probably should never get into. And almost all real estate deals are lost with something around equity, which is partnerships, something around debt, which is lenders. And then the last one is just like operational mistakes, like improper reporting, not a good marketing team, things like that. And so you need to slow down sometimes and design something better so that it works for your partners, and it works for you, and it works for your lenders, and it works for your vendors. Because ultimately that team, a group of people are what make you successful. And I just see people getting in way too much of a hurry, and they think that they just need to go out there and keep buying. I can't tell you how many developers I meet and builders and fix and flip guys that get in a huge hurry and they just keep on buying properties because that's what they know how to do. But they don't ever fix their problem. They don't realize that their real problem is their systems suck. They're just not that good. And inherently, my friend, the reason why the systems aren't good is because everybody uses the system of the lenders. The lenders create and drive everything in this business. And so you have to design a that takes them into account, but is not in there, that is not totally centralized to what they do. The lenders will give you X amount of percentage. That's not in your best interest. It's not in your best interest to over leverage your property. So my best advice is people is slow down, design a system that makes sense for everybody in your realm so that you're a steward of their money, of their time, and of their hard-earned work. And learn to serve people, not the other way around. Because that's what it comes down to. Are we going to serve other people? It doesn't mean that you do what they want you to do. It just means that you take their concerns into account because you have to. Because when you're a team, that's what we do. When you're in a marriage, you're in a team, right? You have to take your family's concerns. And so when you're in a business and you have business partners and you have investors and you have lenders, and you have to look out for those other people's best interests. And that's what true leadership is looking out for other people's best interests and doing what is necessary. And you can't do that when you're going at the speed of light.
It's a great point. No, appreciate that. I think that's a great lesson. And where can people find you at, Mike?
Find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on TikTok. Love TikTok. You can find me on Instagram. I'm on all of those. You can find me in LinkedIn under Mike Hubbell. I'm there as well. I think you can find us on LinkedIn under Luxe Living Homes. A lot of the stuff I do it under my personal name just because, I end up being the brand anyways. And so I'm part of the brand. I'm part of the thought process. And so they can find us all in those ways.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mike, for the conversation. Really appreciate it.